Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the 172nd edition of Cinema Effect. I'm Zach, and I'm joined by PWSA's number one fanboy, Jaden.
G'day.
Oh, come in hot. Nice. I like it. That was some crisp audio, just so you know. And we've also got PTA's number one fanboy, a.k.a. John Cena, a.k.a. Fitzy, a.k.a. Liam.
Hello there.
Nice.
I can't really match Jaden's grumbly morning voice. I'm not even going to try.
Yeah. I think I'm just getting a bit nasally as well. So, like,
it's ultra masculine.
Thanks.
Exactly. Yeah, no, you can't replicate it. That's a good move. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Cinema Effect, the podcast where we review and talk about a different movie every single Monday. And this week, that movie is First Man, which opened in the US on October 12th, 2018. It was directed by Damien Chazelle, back at it 2 weeks in a row. It is a historical drama, and the synopsis says, a look at the life of the astronaut Neil Armstrong and the legendary space mission that led him to become the first man to walk on the moon on July 20th, 1969. When I thought about this and the fact that this movie came out in 2018, it's the Neil Armstrong biopic movie, isn't it kind of, unless there's some that I'm not aware of, isn't it kind of weird it took this long for them to do this movie, to make a Neil Armstrong biopic? I feel like this is the kind of biopic that like they'd churn out like 3 years after it happened. You know what I mean? Maybe that's more of like a modern Hollywood thing.
Which one is the Tom Hanks one about? That's about the one that exploded, isn't it?
Oh, Apollo 13.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's probably just like a wealth of documentaries. So like they're like, what's the point of making a movie or some shit?
Yeah, that's what they thought back in the day. But like, dude, that shit wouldn't stand up today. Oh my God. They would have done this shit way sooner, I would have thought. But anyway, Jaden, I want to start with you. Neither of you guys have seen First Man. I saw it in the cinema, but I'm curious as to how you felt about it on a first watch. And of course, maybe even through the lens of Damien Chazelle's filmography as well, because there's maybe some stuff to say about that if you want to.
This was probably not the greatest time to be watching his two other films for me. Yeah. Just because of other shit going on, you know. I'll press it with that. I think my initial viewing experience perhaps was tainted. But just maybe like the first 40 odd minutes, because I did find myself rather enraptured to a degree I didn't think I would be. Because I thought I would be pretty removed from it. But then by the time that final, like, I don't know, hour odd 40 minutes comes, very, very into it, and it was just very high quality. And I just think back to, did I miss out on this same quality early in the movie because I wasn't that present? I think it's really strong musically, visually. I just think that like the one of the biggest things that just hangs me up is just Ryan Gosling. I think I just don't see him as Neil Armstrong. I just see him as a nondescript astronaut almost. But like the performance is still strong, and I think the emotion that is generated through what they do reveal of his life and what they choose to keep away, I think it's all really rather great for a film that postulates itself on, you know, being a truthful story. I'm surprised they neglected to acknowledge the Transformers ship on the moon, but that's right, we can unpack that.
Very good point. Yeah, that's true. Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear that. So it won you over by the looks of it.
Yeah, that whole launch sequence to space shit, fucking phenomenal, man.
Yeah, like the last one, like the Apollo launch. Yeah, cool. That's awesome. Yeah, we'll definitely talk about those. Liam, I demand an apology from you, sir. All right. You claimed that I can't change my mind about a movie.
Oh, here we go. Okay.
I'm absolutely here.
I thought it might be this one, to be fair. I was thinking this.
Okay. He claims to have thought it to himself. All right. Sure. Yeah, so this film, it doesn't resemble a Chazelle film as we have come to think of them. It has a lot less musical spark, obviously literally, but also just in like the tone, you know, like it lacks the colourful characters, for instance. It's a whole different feel and an interesting departure for him in that way. And a huge part of that is the fact that he's gone from these, you know, memorable original stories, you know, to maybe the most well-known story in human history, and he didn't even write the screenplay to bring his own sort of spin to the narrative, you know. So all that's true in my eyes. I've realised I just made it sound like I'm setting it up to say I didn't like it, but I did like it. I liked it. It's just that it provides an interesting contrast to his other films we've done. But certainly more than the first time, I enjoyed this movie. On occasion, it can feel a little bit biopic-y, a little bit at times, but which is like, I don't know if that's I think I've just coined that term maybe, I don't know. But there's plenty of stuff that's also, really well done as well. And plenty of stuff to appreciate, no doubt about it. And just coming back to it and seeing some of these scenes in a new light and how well executed they were was really enjoyable. Yeah, I really enjoyed rewatching it for that reason. Fitzy, though, I'm standing down. But how did you feel about this movie?
No, I really loved it. I really enjoyed it. I think it executes like two pretty simple stories really well, and like combines them in a way that I haven't like seen before. Yeah, like the technical stuff is really amazing. Like just the look of the scrappy old ships and the mechanisms that they work with to like train and stuff is like really awesome. And I wasn't aware, or maybe I just forgotten how many people like actually died leading up to Apollo 11 or whatever it is.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it was much more of like I won't say that. It was much more dangerous than I thought it was, and it had like way more stakes. Yeah, it was really great.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. That was one of my main takeaways this time too. I think so. The first time I watched it, I thought it was kind of an average movie, and I think that was mainly because at the time I sort of do understand my previous perspective in that it does feel like, we all know this story to an extent, and I just felt like I was sort of just watching. I was going through the motions, through this story. That's how I viewed it the first time. Because I'm like, oh yeah, wow, he walked on the moon. Who would have thought, except he didn't actually walk on the moon. It was filmed in it. No, sorry. Anyway, but no, like this time, I do think that original. I don't think I was paying attention enough, or I don't know. I definitely had a newfound appreciation for the historical achievement of it. I definitely agree with that. Like all the steps involved in making that mission a reality. They start off, by pointing out how the significance of the distance they have to travel with the chalkboard, which was a fun scene, and or the way that the ships have to dock each other. It's all pretty remarkable stuff. And as Liam, of course, mentioned, the fact that all these people that died along the way and the impact that has on Neil, all that stuff is really sunk in this time. It sort of feels like, even though it's like ancient history to us now, it's still, I don't know, like it still had a different impact this time for sure. But like, I don't know, like how interested are you in like the moon landing in the first place? Like, did that aspect of like the subject matter, was it something that had to win you over? Because you're like, I don't want to watch a movie about the moon landing and I don't really care. Like, so did all that stuff win you over, or was it stuff that you were interested in the first place? I think that sort of might be something that different people come to it with different takes.
Wait, what do you want to say, Jen? Jen has...
I'm sorry.
I just want to say that you used the term ancient history extremely wrong. That is, the moon landing is considered very, very, very modern history. Just want to pick you up on that one.
No, it's ancient history, dude. Clearly, it was like more than 3 years ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I consider Year 12 ancient history just for so you have an idea of like the Zach scale. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We spoke different languages back then.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I can't say I've like watched a lot of stuff about the moon landing or anything, but it obviously still holds like some of the most like weight in terms of like major events in history. So I don't know, but like it wasn't the moon landing subject that I think won the film over for me, or the goal of the moon landing was like realized well. I think
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah.
My favorite thing to think about is like I will never be a conspiracy theorist and deny the moon landing, but I just love the validity in like the ideas of the moon landing, of it being fake, and how it was like something to bankrupt the Russians, and how it was so thrown together that it's impossible and all that shit. So I think it's always fun to engage with that debate, because you can you don't shift your position, but it's fun to argue with idiots.
Sure. Yeah, I'll definitely be editing that out, but that's cool. No, that's cool. Did you? How did you feel about this, Jane, in terms of the historical aspect, and did you have a newfound appreciation for everything that went into it?
No, I was a massive fucking space nerd as a child.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
Like my first career aspirations were to be an astronomer.
Really?
Yeah, I love this shit back then.
At least it wasn't an astronaut.
And now. Oh yeah, no, I'm not physical enough to be an astronaut. I rid myself of those delusions back then as well.
I could see you being an astronomer. I could see it.
Yeah. So I love the subject. I will always engage with space and history. So from that perspective, the film was, oriented straight towards me. But I did quite enjoy it, and there was lots of fun things to learn about Neil specifically.
Oh yeah, absolutely, no doubt about that. You, how much did you know about Neil Armstrong? Because I know nothing about the dude. I deliberately didn't even look up what he looks like for real, because I wanted to ask how much he looks like Ryan Gosling.
I know pretty little apart from his name being Alien backwards.
Wait, what?
Neil A is Alien.
That's genius. Holy shit.
Yeah. Which also feeds into the conspiracy theories.
Got it. Oh, yeah. Okay. Wow. He was really destined to do this shit. Okay. Okay. So, wait. He doesn't look like Neil Armstrong?
I've really ever seen pictures of Neil when he's young, to be honest. When he's old. Really.
Oh, okay. I get you. Oh, yeah. It's like I just couldn't help but see Ryan Gosling as astronaut.
He looks like it's a fair likeness, I guess. But like,
oh, okay.
If I was to have seen that image and still watch this movie, then I would still only see Ryan. I would still only see Ryan. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank God the film didn't end. By the way, speaking of the historical stuff, thank God the film didn't end on like a real life photos comparison. You know what I mean, or like text.
Yeah.
Oh man, thank God for that. Like the JFK stuff is the most we get, which I liked. I thought that was cool. Like that just sort of grounded the achievement in a cool way. It's obviously a famous speech, but yeah, I liked how they chose to end the film on a personal note and then just cut the credits. That was nice. But anyway, how did you, Fitzy, how did you feel about Ryan Gosling? Because we've definitely got to talk about this, his performance and the interpretation of Neil. And was it what you were expecting? Because I feel like he brings something quite subtle that probably even myself the first time, that it might be easy to sort of overlook and feel is a bit boring or whatever. But it's interesting.
No, he's fantastic. I think he plays, quiet guys like really well. He definitely felt. I didn't have like comparisons in my head or anything of the real Neil. I was pretty absorbed. I don't know. He gives like a good like troubled, kind of focused like reserved kind of performance. I guess like really well. Yeah.
It's subtle for sure. I really like. It's all quite quiet. It's sort of an everyman performance, and I appreciate that. It felt quite honest. The character felt quite honest as well. Like, in that scene when he's like in the boardroom or whatever, and he's applying for the mission for the first time, and he answers honestly about how he thinks that the death of his daughter would have some effect on the mission. And that's sort of something you see all the way through. He's a very matter of fact, straightforward, fairly quiet person. Yeah, I just think Ryan brings that to life in all the different contexts that he has to in the film. Like I really love it in the professional contexts. Like that scene I mentioned, I really love that scene at the press conference where we see like the personality differences between Neil and Buzz, and like all the Buzz trying to do all the banter with the journalists, and Neil's responses just being great. Like, I was pleased. We plan on the mission being successful, and that's like all he'll say. So like the way he brings that out in those different contexts is great. But then of course you got all the home life stuff as well, which is like a whole different beast, and he's able to sort of convey emotion in those scenes and the loss of his daughter and all that kind of thing very quietly. He never really he has very few like outbursts. Well, I don't think he has any outbursts, but he has very few like scenes where he actually gets genuinely sort of emotional for everyone to see. It really keeps it bottled up. That plays out really nicely, I think. And so I think the subtlety of it, especially when you compare to other Chazelle leading performances that are so out there and externalized, that I think this one it's so different that it could be overlooked. But yeah, no, I think it's really fantastic for sure. Despite the fact, you were just seeing Ryan Gosling, Jaden. Did you still like his performance?
He plays it like a he like I did enjoy the performance, and he plays it like he kind of typical like a kind of I don't know. It reminds me like a lot of Drive or some shit. Like his other performances where like this would fit into his literally me catalog, you know, where like
Okay.
I don't know. He plays him like kind of spurgy, and like I don't know if that's accurate. I don't know if Neil was like that, but I don't know. I trust him to have done his research, but no, I did quite enjoy the performance. Yes,
I've got some things about the accuracy later too, but one thing is that I think Rick and Mark Armstrong are the two sons' names of his, of Neil, and they were like all over this film saying like how accurate it was for them, like in the representation of their dad and stuff, which is great to hear. I was personally surprised they admitted that, considering that the two kids in the movie are like incredibly annoying and really painful sons. So like I'm interested that they admitted that about themselves, I guess. But anyway, yeah. So apparently all that stuff was quite accurate, which is great to read. He goes through a lot in this movie. You know, Neil lost a lot of friends and a lot of people died to make this shit happen. You know, and you know Ed and his crew dying in that fire was sort of the biggest one, I think, because you sort of, at least I did, I ended up sort of connecting with Jason Clarke's performance as the film goes on. So that was sort of the biggest one for me. So the way that they're able to really sort of position Neil as like a hardened survivor in a way, and more than just like the talented pilot who walked on the moon first, which is knowing nothing about it going in. Like I'm like, I don't know, Neil Armstrong, he's a white dude, he walked on the moon, you know, that's sort of it. And the way they're able to sort of change that perception, at least my initial perception, is just like, no, he went through some shit to get here, you know, and it really feels earned. So that's the way the story sort of progresses with his character like that is quite strong as well.
Yeah, yeah. That death of Ed White fucking shocked me, man. That there's 3 people that died in that test run or whatever. Yeah, that was shocking. Just like an electrical fault or whatever.
Yeah.
Like I think that's one of the main things that I loved about the film was that it felt like, as I said earlier, there's 2 stories. Like there's a story about grief and his daughter, and there's the accomplishment, like achievement, like traditional kind of story. But they intermingle in a way that I don't think I've seen before, where maybe it's more common than I think, but like he uses that like fuel to like he does everything almost like in honor of his daughter, and then more people kind of die around him, which kind of adds to his his misery and his like motivation, I guess. So like I found the film really moving in that way. I thought that was like a main idea of the film, that he just like uses all this like pain to like do great things in the honor of people who have like died.
That's a great point. Because so obviously the daughter is the foundational one. Ed White and the other astronauts was pretty shocking. There was that. Who was the other bloke? There was the other one as well, sort of like paced in the middle of those two, where it was his other friend, right, who was on the test.
Do you mean the almost famous guy that he was like who died first?
Yeah,
he was there.
Yeah. He was like another one, sort of. Yeah, as the film goes, there's sort of those 3 major losses. Not to mention like the actual failed practice thing that Neil was a part of himself. You know, where he almost died.
Yeah. Oh, that was great as well. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I want to talk about that with the technical stuff for sure. But yeah, no, that's an excellent point. And the film never spells that out either. Like it's all really in the performance, which is great. How did you feel? I'll jump ahead to this just because I did want to ask it later, but just specifically right on this though, Fitzy, how did you feel about the editing of the family stuff with the daughter right at the end when he's standing there on the moon as a choice? Because I thought that was quite striking when he's there and he throws the bracelet, and the contrast between like the moon imagery and like the family imagery in IMAX was quite nice.
Oh, that's nice that you experienced that. Oh, I thought you meant like at the cinemas, but you just mean like on the. Oh,
I just mean like the IMAX.
Oh, right. I thought you meant
No, I gotcha.
Yeah, that was really great. I wasn't expecting him to like. I totally forgot about that as like a device. Almost like a Chekhov's gun kind of thing with the bracelet.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
I think it's an interesting contrast to like the way he presents himself and the way he is, because he says if he had to bring one thing, Buzz Aldrin says he wants to bring his wife's jewelry, so they'll have like an antique, special kind of value. But like Neil says in the press conference that he would just like bring more fuel, and he's practical, and he's always like thinking about the job, because that's like what he has to do to like because like as I said earlier, I feel like all of his accomplishments feel like he's trying to overcome his grief, but the fact that he did bring that, that was really nice. That was really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great payoff to it as well. Yeah, so that sort of emotional journey is quite strong. But in terms of, let's talk a little bit about some of these actual space sequences and some of the flight and launch sequences. Technically, how much, Jaden, did you vibe with like all of those sequences and how they were brought to screen? And I actually wanted to specifically ask if it sounds like, I think we're already on the same page based on the hints I've gotten so far, but like the shaky cam and how immersive all that stuff was, especially. I know you like the final one a lot.
I like how a lot of it was like we never get an outside shot of the ship, do we? Like it was all like close
very
to the
rarely.
cockpit. And like I like how like the I always love just like the reflection displayed in the
Oh yeah, dude.
in the helmets, and it feels very like kind of traditional. Like I don't know, I imagine like Solaris or like 2001 or shit like that. Every time that there's a launch sequence, you kind of feel it feels physically demanding, and I think they can.
Oh yeah,
they convey that well, partly through the camera work, but I think a lot to do with just Ryan's acting as well, and like his changes in breathing, his eye shifts, and all that. I think it does a great job in conveying like how tense it is through what is actually quite a static kind of shot for in regards to other kind of space things that we've been seeing recently.
Absolutely, yeah, exactly. I think for some reason I keep comparing this film to Ad Astra, probably because it's like the most similar sort of thing I've seen recently. And yes, it's just I think both do great stuff, but yeah, it's definitely noticeably different. And I think there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle as to why it really ends up working and feeling immersive and feeling quite strenuous, even as an audience member, to like be involved in it. Because I think part of it, first of all, I love that shot. I think it's they do it a few different ways, but like the first shot in the opening scene where you get like the horizon through his visor is like phenomenal. That's gorgeous. But and there's other shots like it as well. But other components of it, there's the shaky cam. The way they do that, I really dug it in the cockpit, because when the camera's that tight and that close on Ryan's face, it feels really natural with like the movement of the ship. It really feels like you're there, like sort of like when you're like trying to hold like a camera steady in a moving car or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It feels very, very grounded in that way. And also, hey, I've got some trivia here that's sort of part of the spacing here. Yeah. Director Damien Chazelle was particularly concerned with making his film as authentic as possible. This care for detail was maintained until it came to the reproduction of the space capsules. He and chief designer Nathan Crowley agreed that no ship would be enlarged by more than 10%, even if it sacrificed the comfort of the actors. So that's how authentic they were trying to be. But it also goes on to say, I didn't copy it all because it was quite long, but basically in part of recreating the sizing of the ships, they had to be really careful with fitting the cameras into those tight spaces. And I feel like you can really tell just by watching it. It's just like, it never feels like, I don't know, something about like the close-ups on Ryan, part of it's definitely his acting, which is fantastic. It's all in his eyes. Great stuff. But another part of it is like, I don't know, it never felt like just a close-up. It really feels like this camera's in this space and there's like nowhere else for it to be, kind of thing. So that's another huge element of it too. Because are there any other aspects of why these sequences really work to you that I'm not pointing out yet?
No, I agree. I think it's just like the dodgiest space travel that has ever felt, or just like piloting in general has ever felt. It feels like the whole ship's just coming apart.
It did.
Yeah, it's great. It's like some of the most tense. Even when they're just like, not even in space. It's mainly I guess the atmosphere is like the hardest part. But like when he's like exiting the atmosphere and stuff, it's really awesome.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's actually that's so true. What they do with the sound in all of these scenes is fantastic because it really makes it feel like the rocket is about to fall apart. Like it sounds like it. It sounds like, I don't know. It sounds like the shittest car that you've ever heard driving down the street or something. You know, it's like all the creaking and like I think it's in the Gemini 8 launch. I think.
Oh,
Dude,
sorry.
that one was
Now that you
fantastic.
fucking say that, I hate that.
Yeah.
I hate that they fucking pronounce Gemini wrong. How fucking dumb are they? They're fucking scientists and they can't pronounce Gemini. That fucking pissed me off the entire film.
So interesting. But I presume they must have in real life pronounced it that way. They were all
Probably.
about the authenticity.
Like
So,
they probably did pronounce like that, but it's fucking stupid. These Yanks, man. Oh my god.
So that's so funny. I presume in real life they pronounced it wrong, therefore they replicated it in the film.
Mm.
If they did, now, Jane, I'm not necessarily agreeing with you. I don't know how to pronounce the word. I would say Gemini personally. I would have said that, but I don't know. Is that actually correct?
Well,
I don't know what the word is.
Let's think back to the 2021 film starring Will Smith, where he plays two characters, Gemini Man, not Gemini Man.
Right, but I'm just saying. I don't know
the star sign is a Gemini. You know, you don't meet a girl who's into her horoscope shit, and she goes, "Oh, I'm a Gemini. I'm a Gemini."
That's true.
You're making great points here, but I'm I guess more wondering if they were actually right back in the day, and somehow as a civilization we've lost the true pronunciation.
No, can't be.
Can't argue with that. That's fair. That's fair. I noticed.
Sorry,
this one.
I completely cut you off there.
Oh no, I noticed it too, to the point where I deliberately had to think to myself, I'm going to say Gemini 8 right now. You know, just to not to annoy you. I didn't know it annoyed you, but like just to make sure I'm right with the film. But oh, dude, that scene in particular was phenomenal. It was probably my favorite, actually, even though you could probably pick any of them. But the way, particularly in that scene, like when Ryan gets in, or when he's about to get in, he's having that pause before he gets in, and there's just that tiny space he's looking at with like the chair upside down. He's just looking in there. It's like, dude, I just totally got the impression of it that this little tin bucket thing, like, who's coming out of that thing? You know what I mean? Like, I can't believe like he made it out of that thing alive and like rode it into space. And like I was saying with the sound, the way that they're able to like, it sounds like all the screws and shit are like basically the bolts of the whole thing are like barely hanging together at times. And then there's that, and then obviously, you know, like there's the problem with the seatbelt where it needs to be like cut with scissors or some shit.
Are you fucking serious? A fucking screwdriver or whatever. Yeah.
Unbelievable. And of course when the fly got in, oh my god, that whole thing that was a disaster. No doubt about it. So that was crazy. But what that then led to with I think I'm getting my sequences mixed up. I'm really starting to get concerned about this. So the Aegina sequence, is that different from the Gemini 8 sequence?
Which one's which?
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I feel like we mixed a few sequences there, but
I might have,
because there are a few that are kind of similar. Like, yeah.
Wait, was Aegina early on, or was that?
So I have here that Aegina was the one where like he almost died.
Oh,
which was. Are they not? Wait, are they not? They're not the same thing, and Gemini 8's the name of the ship. Oh, good. No, the Gemini 8's trying to connect with the Aegina.
Yeah,
right?
is Aegina the landing mechanism, right?
Are they two? Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
They're two sides of the same thing.
I think so.
Of what the mission is, I think.
Yeah.
Oh god. I think that's what it was, because the whole thing was that the whole point of it was that they were trying to dock and undock for the first time. Anyway, don't quote me on that. During that sequence, I'll call it the Aegina sequence because I have it here, where Ryan Gosling, Neil Armstrong. Ryan Gosling did not almost die, to be clear, but when Neil Armstrong almost died in this movie and in real life, I was trying not to pass out watching this sequence. It was intense, like all that stuff with the creaking and stuff. I think it's the same one. That was the build up, but the flashing and the lighting and the shaky cam, all of it coming together, like when he's trying not to pass out. At that point, you know, he is literally fighting to stay awake for his life. Like if he passes out, he's dead, you know? So that moment where he closes his eyes and they do that thing where he closes his eyes for a few extra moments than he was previously, I think it's like maybe like 1 second, you know, whatever it is, but it feels like an extra little beat, and he's then able to like burst out of it, you know, and maintain consciousness was just phenomenal. That stuff was really intense. So everything they did with that, everything they did with all these sequences was really fantastic. That was probably my favorite one, to be honest, for those reasons. But I know the Apollo launch was your favorite, Jane. Was there anything in particular about that one that stood out? I think that's the one that you get the most actual like exterior shots, if I recall.
Yeah.
Still not many, but
I don't know. I don't know whether it's just because the culmination of the past, hour and 20 minutes of efforts, or whether it was that's when I was finally in tune with the movie, after overcoming my head I don't know, my previous headspace or whatever.
Yes, yes.
I just think it was really engaging and really tense.
Was the score a standout to you?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yes, thank God you mentioned that.
I thought it might be.
The music did peak up at points, and especially in that Apollo launch there. Yeah, fantastic. I preferred, the music in this probably to La La Land, despite La La Land being obviously more jazzy and more musical orientated and whatever.
To compare,
I know people do praise that for its music. I think like this film score is fantastic.
People praise La La Land for his music, dude. No way. Are you sure?
Some people do.
Yeah.
No, I wrote down the score too. It was fantastic. It was epic by that point. By that point, I think it was. I think you're right. I think it was like the culmination of the other events in the film, because the score was strong earlier. I enjoyed it, but it felt like Justin like deliberately saved his like epic space theme or his epic adventure, whatever, like epic triumphant theme. It wasn't a generic one, but that's what I think it did achieve, and he saved it for the end on purpose because it really hit as they were launching the Apollo. In terms of the tension of this scene, I was thinking about this because so that's the launch, and then there's a bit of a pause, and then they go into the actual landing sequence, which was sort of separate. But maybe because I found that scene tense, maybe part of that comes from like staring into Ryan's eyes in that scene and how good he is. But like I thought the scene was decently tense, and I was surprised by that considering like the outcome was never in any doubt. You know what I mean? That's actually kind of impressive. And like I said, first viewing, I was probably like checked out at that point because of that. But like getting more immersed in it this time was like, oh shit, this actually really works. And it sort of shouldn't, because I feel like in the hands of other filmmakers, it would just be like in the hands of some other filmmakers, it would just be like, oh yeah, an inevitability or whatever. But
yeah,
that particular scene was really tense as well in its own right.
Yeah. Like the film's not that similar to Oppenheimer, but I guess it's similar in the way like both historical events that are going to turn out like a success for the people. Like are both tense. Like the main theme they use is awesome. Like when Neil is kind of like getting into training, they have that scene, which is a really awesome scene where he just says like, this thing is neat or whatever. He's just like really. He's just like really interested in what he's doing, and then they have this like family scene where it's the first time the camera's like loose in the film, where they just like follow the people like running around the house and stuff. They use the main theme in that, and then I think it's like reused and kind of done up later in the big launch. But that theme is really awesome.
That's awesome. I love that they did that and repurposed it like that. In terms of the score, actor Ryan Gosling first discovered Neil Armstrong's love of the. Now I don't know how to actually say this. The theremin, the instrument.
Theremin, yeah.
The theremin. He discovered his love of the theremin during his background research with Armstrong's family and friends. He brought it to Damien Chazelle and Justin Hurwitz's attention, who later chose to include the strange instrument in the score. So I had no idea what this was. I had to Google this. I don't know if it's an obscure instrument or if I've just never seen it for some reason. But this instrument, like, you don't touch it. You do like hand waves and shit.
It used to be obscure, but then because of how obscure it was, everyone brought up how obscure it was, and now it's quite like well known.
Got it. Okay, that's hilarious. So yeah, that's so random that he loved that instrument. But yeah, it's apparently I don't really know the sound of it. Like I couldn't tell you like where it was in the score. I don't know if you guys could tell that.
It's got like a strong history with space and sci-fi. so it makes sense. It's like this like really kind of like
is it synthy?
synthy, wavy
Yeah.
kind of thing. Yeah,
It was very present in like the actual moon sequence where he's like looking back on Earth and stuff.
Yeah, okay.
But it's massively like used in the film. It's there a lot.
That's awesome.
Is it there? Is it 3-dimensional or is it 2-dimensional?
I think it's primarily 2, but I imagine there is like a third kind
like
of
a little kind of
like a little kind of
right.
way you can use it. Yeah.
What a great little find there. That's fantastic. During this Apollo 11 Eagle landing sequence, the actual historic recordings were used for the communications audio from Mission Control. I actually had this thought watching it because it sounded dead on. Like just you know what I mean? There's like, I don't know what it is, the way people spoke back then, like that American like audio person coming across from Houston, you know? It just sounded so right that like I was like, oh, they're going to be really impressed with whoever they got in to do that voice. But no, they used the actual audio, so that's cool.
I think with that, isn't it that like the way that microphones were developed back then, like they didn't pick up lower frequencies as much. So like on like the average guy's voice, like, you know, unless you got like a super deep voice, like it picks up like that kind of higher pitch a bit more, and that's probably like that. Is that what you're thinking of? Like it is that kind of like higher pitch and kind of twangy kind of sound.
When it's like 1940s, like, oh, I'm not even going to try and do it, but you know, like 1940s, like
radio cast
newscast. The Nazis have taken up. You know,
exactly.
I don't know if that's what this was. I can't quite remember, but that is actually really funny about that. That makes a lot of sense. Oh, I had to ask though. Did we all watch this on Prime?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay, so we got the IMAX this time. I needed to check after Catching Fire.
Oh, I don't think I even noticed that, to be honest.
Oh, okay. I watched it, unless maybe it differs on devices. I don't know. I got no idea. But I got it this time when they step out. You know, when they do the shot where the camera like they open the door to the moon and the camera like does the thing where it like basically like does a little like, I don't even know how to describe it, like a little rapid move out basically. And that's when it goes to IMAX and you stay there.
That is a cool. Is that like meant to emulate like the air getting sucked out of the cabin?
Yes,
cool
I think it was.
Yeah,
because there was a little sound with that.
Yeah.
I think that's what it was. Yeah, and they chose that moment to do the transition, which was cool. Dude, I'm a sucker for aspect ratio changes, man. I love it. Aspect ratio, I feel like, is underrated. Like I always notice what aspect ratio that the film is, like even when it doesn't change or anything. Just like I always take note. I love it. But the sad part about it in this film, though, is that I read that they shot these scenes in 70mm IMAX film, but this film was never actually released in that format. So while we still get the expanded, you know, aspect ratio on our TVs and shit, and it would have been in the cinema too, but like the actual extra data from the full 70, like no one's ever seen it. Like it's never been released anywhere. It's never been distributed that way. So there's information in those frames as they were shot. Little extra moon particle dust shit. You know what I mean? Like when we're watching Dune and we could see more desert and shit. That's never been seen by anyone. So that's a bit of a sad thing.
They were hiding, you know, the moon aliens from us.
Oh, interesting. I was thinking they were hiding like the audio cables, you know, like the boom mics.
Oh yeah,
maybe.
true.
No, you don't
the
need
aliens.
You don't need boom mics
maybe.
on the moon because there's no sound. So
that too, yeah, because they actually went and shot this on the moon. I should have said that.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I felt that oddly wasn't in the trivia, but it's worth pointing out that they did go to the moon to shoot this film. Speaking of all this stuff, this one's for Andy. Linus Sandgren, who was a cinematographer, and Damien Chazelle used 16mm film for scenes on land and 35mm for scenes in space to create a feeling that you are really watching this movie in 1969. I'm sure Andy, I don't think he watched this movie, did he? But I'm sure he would have noticed if he did. He would have written another essay about it I'd have to read. We haven't really talked as much about the home life stuff. They did actually use, like they recreated Neil Armstrong's house based off like floor plans they found and shit. So that is like a recreation of his house, which is kind of neat. There's some good stuff here. Claire Foy in the film, I love Claire Foy. I think she's a great actress anyway. I was probably like, compared to Ryan's journey, I was like less into hers a little bit. More so, it just feels like she sort of complements what Neil goes through. And she's sort of like that other side of it, like having to deal with the home life of her two pain in the ass kids and sort of the consequences of, you know, Neil going on this going on this, obviously this significant, going for this achievement, going on this quest, if you will, or whatever, working really hard on this, and then sort of being left at home to deal with it, and the emotional turmoil of that, and of course all the other aspect of it being all the other wives who become widows and dealing with that reality as well. So all that was good, but it wasn't like my standout in the film. You know what I mean? But I don't know if you guys saw other things in it or anything.
Well, like my perception of the film before I watched it was that, like, I thought Claire Foy was like a key player, and she was like her character was like much more like influential on like Neil Armstrong's life or whatever, because like I just remember her clip like from the Oscars, and I feel like there's a lot of discussion of her around this film. So yeah, I thought that she would do more, but she's still really great. And that one scene where she does confront Neil is like pretty great acting. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, when she forces him to prepare the kids, that was good. That was really good, and definitely, like totally earned at that point, because it's like, he's the one going off and doing this shit, and she has to deal with all the. He should definitely be the one to do that. And that was another funny scene too, where like I really enjoyed where Neil Armstrong like answered his kids at the dinner table like they were journalists. It's like, we have faith in the mission. Like he's like a PR statement.
Yeah.
That was pretty funny actually. But yeah, no, I definitely do agree with that. That's funny though about the spotlight on her prior in the Oscars. So she was up for lead actress, I guess.
Maybe. I think like I just remember a clip. I think it was that clip from her, and like the fact that she's angry in that clip and worked up, I guess made me think that was more her personality throughout the film. But that's not. It's really not what she's like throughout the film. Like she's pretty passive, and like the passivity kind of builds up to that moment. So exactly. It was just a different performance than I thought it'd be, but it was still really good.
This film actually low key. It's funny. We haven't really talked about it because they're all like historical characters that sort of all just serve their function. They're all just either generals or other co-pilots or whatever. Like Jason Clarke's probably the most emotionally significant, but this film has got a pretty stacked cast of just like people just sort of filling these roles. Like Corey Stoll being Buzz Aldrin. Like that was pretty fun, and you've got
Chandler.
Why am I blanking? Kyle Chandler. Yeah, of course.
Kyle Chandler, yeah.
Yeah, he was a big one. They all, they're all great. They all serve their purpose.
Yeah. I'm surprised. I didn't know Jason Clarke was like this big. Like now that he's in this and Oppenheimer, he just kind of came out of nowhere.
I
always love Jason Clarke appearing on screen randomly. I fucking love him. I love every time. Yeah. Just get an Aussie out there as well, Like, even though his character in Great Gatsby is kind of shitty, fucking love it. I love every time Jason Clarke appears on screen somewhere. I actually appreciated his role as Ed in this movie because I feel like he's got a villainous face. You know what I mean? I feel like he often gets those parts.
Yeah.
Like I always think of him first and foremost for some reason as in Devil All the Time, which is a scary character. So, and he's great in that. But yeah, no, I'm always for Jason Clarke. I totally agree. I feel like he's a pretty big deal. Like with Oppenheimer recently and stuff, and like this is a significant role in a significant film as well. Like,
yeah. I guess it would. Jane brought up Great Gatsby as well. Like I guess I never thought about it, but now he's kind of have to think about him because it's just
of like Aussie actors, he is one of the ones that has broken through the bubble the most, I'd say.
Yeah, kind of low key though. I would argue. Like I don't feel like we talk about him much as Aussies.
Yeah,
but like he definitely.
Do we really acknowledge him in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes? I feel like we would have.
Oh, I totally forgot he was in that, but he's great in that too.
Yeah,
great example.
Or Lawless even. I just saw her for you. He appears everywhere. I'm telling you.
Oh, I forgot about that movie. Luckily, anyway, I did want to just quickly ask though. Did you guys have any thoughts on like the way that the film brings up the protests and the challenges to the mission and sort of the political element and the economic element of like having to spend so much money on the program? And there's that little sequence where you get some like protests and. Why are we spending money going to the moon? Taxpayer money,
right.
I just thought I didn't dislike it necessarily, but I did question it. I was kind of like, okay, is this a relevant inclusion for this story? It almost felt like it was sort of just there because at some point the screenwriter felt it should be, and that was kind of it. But maybe you could argue it was justified by the end. I don't know.
I think it's necessary to have it to set the time period and to acknowledge that there was a counterpoint to it, and it wasn't all just space fever. And I think the way they do it is quite nice, especially with that poem of Whitey on the Moon. The thing is that I do like. It's great that people did have an issue with it, but complaining about the taxpayer dollars isn't like the Yankees waste their money in so many other places, specifically the military. Like, money on science and exploration really isn't where you should be complaining when that military complex existed like it did back then and now.
Yeah, very true. But wait, yeah, I do understand though if this having so much attention, at the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it doesn't address those underlying things for sure. That's totally true. That is also a fair point in that I think, there's a good argument to say that it creates this counterbalance for even like subconsciously when you're watching. It adds this other layer of adversity that Neil has to overcome. Like, all the other personal adversity, we see so much adversity, but then there's this other small element of like, not everyone in the culture is with you either, maybe there's something to say about that.
Maybe. I was like, first of all, surprised that Kurt Vonnegut was against the moon landing. When they showed that clip of him, he was like a famous writer. He wrote like Slaughterhouse 5 and stuff. Because I didn't know much about like who was for or against her. I was shocked when he turned up. But I think what it does is it adds that extra level of like in Babylon, I think they celebrate show business, but they acknowledge like the historical like racist like side of it as well. And it's like it's a objective like detracting point, I think in this as well, it just like it adds more like complexity to the situation, and it doesn't make it it does make you question it a little bit, but it doesn't like dismantle it altogether.
Right. Yeah, as opposed to, I guess the alternative is like it feels one note and it's like space exploration is great. Let's do it.
Yeah, because everyone like agrees with that today and like knows that. But I think people forget.
I think, just having like the layman's perspective of why it's bad as well. Like just being removed from the fact of like the scientists saying the odds are impossible, or having scientists and having their friends die and all that. Like having a reason to oppose it from an outside perspective. Because if you forgot what you do have that little bit of complexity in that, scientists there'll always be someone that questions, whether we should push it this far. But like that complexity to them.
Yeah. I mean, another standout point to me, another one of these like historical like timeline things that like I don't really think about, but when Neil makes the point that the politician couldn't have given a shit, but when Neil makes the point that when Neil makes the point that they only learned to fly at all, 60 years before this is crazy. Like I couldn't believe. Like I'm like, well, you're right. That's crazy. They went from being able to fly in airplanes to 60 years later walking on the moon. That's pretty nuts. You know what I mean? And to think of like if some of this stuff had continued, where we'd be now, maybe it's I don't know.
Well, if we play with what ifs, like had the Library of Alexandria not burnt down, we would have been flying like way earlier.
Perhaps,
It's a common school thought.
Yeah, but it's just a bunch of physical. You know what I mean? Like you could say the same shit about like they should have just saved it all on Kindle. Should have invented that quicker.
Yeah.
PDFs, ever heard of them?
Well, had they not burnt down the library, then 2 years later the Kindle would have popped out and they could have archived it all.
Right. Okay. Yeah. No, that actually makes more sense. Yeah. I just love the idea of like Amazon existing in like 200 BC. I definitely got more trivia here, right?
Is it necessary trivia? Because like
I'm down. Yeah, I hear you. I'm down to skip trivia if it's not necessary. I do have to ask this question though. This is going to be real dumb. This is dumb Zach question time, which is priority over trivia. Why doesn't the moon have a sky? So is it because it doesn't have an atmosphere?
Yeah.
Okay, but it still has gravity.
Gravity's not strong enough to make an atmosphere, right?
Yeah, so like the moon gravity is like 3.6 or 3.2 or some shit compared to our 9.8.
Okay.
And basically to create an atmosphere you need a lot more than just a mass and gravity. You do need like organisms to kind of like generate that shit, don't you?
Well,
Really?
I don't think so, because with the other planets in the solar system, they have atmospheres. Yeah, I think it's about.
Oh yes, right.
I think it's about holding down all the chemicals like hydrogen, helium.
Right. Yes, that's what I meant.
Interesting.
Chemicals, not organisms.
So they couldn't be. So they can't. So you know how when you jump on the moon and shit, like you jump high because there's less gravity, right? There can't be planets like that have atmospheres, because if they have atmospheres, the gravity would, you know what I'm saying, would be
stronger.
higher. Stronger, yes, yes.
I think so. I mean, maybe there's a middle ground somewhere. I don't know.
Okay. Well, you get a little bit of a high jump,
a little bit of a sky, a little bit of a jump. You know.
Right. Okay. But if you want a really good sky,
no jump.
Yeah, no jump. A little. Yeah. I would describe myself as no jump. Yes.
Okay.
Some people can jump on this planet Earth, apparently, but I can't.
I just want to say.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I like how this is like a departure, I guess, from the La La Land and Whiplash. I think in terms of themes, you can kind of like dig a little bit into it, maybe, but it's for the most part, it's not as clear cut boundaries and stuff. It's a different kind of focus.
Yeah. Does it like widen the range of what you like want to see from Chazelle in the future?
Like Chazelle's complexity, it just gets like better and better as you go on. Like his filmography. And I think even this is like more complex than La La Land. There's not like this clear distinction like relationships versus work. It's like much more interesting than that.
Yeah. That's true. It definitely, like, to me, like in terms of like the scale and the technical aspects and everything, like Babylon's definitely like another step forward for sure. For me, it's almost like a step back's the wrong word, but it's like it's closer to La La Land and Whiplash than this is. Like just in terms of the feel of the film and the story and everything, the characters. So if he'd only made those three films and not this one, like this would feel like I wouldn't even conceive of something like this from him. But
does that
knowing
come
that
from
he's
from the script as well, though, and not touching it?
Bit of both. Yeah, well, it's the fact I think for sure. Like the fact he even chose to pick up this project in the first place. But then also like everything we talked about with the landing and launch sequences is like I wouldn't have known from just his other three films that he could deliver that, And knowing that he can, like, just opens up, like, I could see him, like, I never would have thought that I'd want Chazelle to direct, like, a huge, like, $200 million, like, sci-fi movie, for example. But, like, I totally, after watching this movie, I'm like, oh, I'd love to see that,
Yeah, it opens his range a bit. He can do more than, we thought of.
Exactly.
He can do more than I thought of before I saw this,
Yeah. Not saying I wanted to, hit up Marvel, but yeah.
Rebel Moon Part 2.
Rebel Moon Part 2. No, that one's already done, Jaden, remember. Don't get confused. All right. Let's get to our final verdicts for First Man, Jaden.
I'll be putting an 8 on this. Very strong 8. I think this is my second favorite Chazelle film.
Oh, wow.
I think I've got a pretty uncommon order amongst this view around that. I've got Babylon, then First Man, then Whiplash and La La Land.
It's probably like the polar opposite.
Probably is, yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I'll slap an 8 on it too. Yeah, like almost a 9 with discussion, but I'll keep an 8 on it.
Keep calm.
You'd be Babylon, La La Land, wouldn't you, Lamb?
Yeah, I guess so. I'd have to think about it. I don't know. I don't know if I'd like this more than Whiplash either. Maybe. I'd have to rewatch it because I've seen Whiplash so many times, so it's like unfair,
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I'll give this film an 8 too. I'll make it unanimous. It's funny. I was actually coming in on a 7, but yeah, I know. It sounds like Fitzy was similar. Like this conversation. I realized I did like nothing but praise this movie, so like I got to give it an 8. Yeah, no, it really is a great movie. It is deserving of that for sure.
Okay, I take it back. You can change your mind. 5 to 8. That's that's adequate enough. Yeah,
that is significant. Thank you very much. It might be the most ever, honestly. Now it's time for our... Wait, no, we're doing quick news chat. Because there was a Killers of the Flower Moon trailer.
Oh, yeah.
Another one.
Annual report.
Was this one like
report.
significantly more meaty?
Yeah, it was actually.
Okay.
It defined the story like way more. Where like Leonardo DiCaprio is kind of like at a crossroads between like his actual family and the family he's like marrying into, I guess. You know.
Oh.
Robert De Niro is his uncle. He wants that juicy oil land. You know, wants him to.
Oh, love it.
They want him to marry and maybe kill some of the family of the Osage people. So yeah. Oh, and Jesse Plemons. He was probably in one of the other trailers, but he like was present in this as like one of the leading like FBI men. So happy to see him as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
fantastic.
Yeah, this trailer got me pretty excited. I think I'm ready now. I don't need another trailer, you know.
Sure. Yeah. I feel you. Who is this lead actress in this movie? Is she new on the scene? I don't think I've seen her before.
She was in a Kelly Reichardt. She was in Certain Women. I think she's getting a lot of praise for this, and she's known as a pretty talented, like up and coming Lily Gladstone. Yeah, I'm excited to see her performance. She looks like, you know, the second or third main character. So she's got a lot of attention from this as well. So yeah, looking forward to that.
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah, excellent. That's good. I'm excited to see all 3.5 hours of her performance, you know. Now it's time for our highlights of the week. Jaden, do you have anything to share? Just checking.
No.
Is this the first time ever? I've got nothing either. Is this... I feel like this is unacceptable.
Damn.
You can't have two people skip highlights. Oh my god.
I forgot my ticket to the train, to the no watch train.
The no watch train, right? Well, at least we got the audience to make up for it. They'll fill in for us. But Fitzy, what have you been watching?
I watched a lot of bullshit this week. Not gonna lie.
Actually, I saw you when you logged that first DC animated film. I was like, hold on, what's going on here? This can't be right.
I'll watch Elemental. I shall talk about that.
Shit!
I sneaked a peek. I started watching it, and I didn't know if I'd like keep watching it or finish it. Like some of the complaints about the film is that it's like sterile and like unoriginal and stuff, which in part it definitely is. But I was pleasantly surprised by how it was still mediocre, but it was entertaining enough. You know.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not a strong recommend, but if you want.
But you didn't know you were going to even finish it, and you watched it.
Yeah, it was watchable enough, you know.
I can't. I'm going to use that. I got to remember that for whenever there's another like mid film I watch. It was
watchable enough.
Damn. I want to watch it soon, but now it's kind of it's not the most encouraging thing, you know.
I don't know.
This is this movie like completely flipped around in like because it was like projected to be like a massive flop, but then like it became like Disney's biggest grossing film since Frozen 2.
Yeah,
it's successful. Yeah,
like it's doing all right.
Yeah, it stuck around. I don't know. I think it had something to do with the fact it was like there was that month period there where like it was like the only kids film, and like I know they had summer over there in the US of A. There was a long time where like if you wanted to take your kid to see a movie, I feel it was sort of the only option for a little bit. It sort of hung in there as a result, I think. Well, the Barbenheimer shit. If you want to take your 3-year-old to something,
that studio was locked out 6 weeks each side, or 3 weeks each side.
What are you talking about?
Part of Nolan's deal with producing Oppenheimer was that there was like a blackout on either side of the film's release for like 3 to 6 weeks. I can't remember what it was. Got it.
Okay, my apologies. Well, then, yeah, because Universal, they do, well, I was about to say they do Illumination, but then they just had Mario earlier this year, which made $1 billion, so I don't think they really care. Anyway, so I don't think that was a huge concern for them this time. All right. Now comes the segment where we hand the show over to you. That question of the show. Last week we asked you, what have you been watching? You guys need to save our highlights of the week segment this week because this was pretty abysmal so far. Hang in there. This is going to be long. I also just want to acknowledge on air that, Andy, I'm declaring war on your comments on your essays. I haven't even decided yet if I'm going to fully read this one, but I'll see how I go. All right, I'm going to wing it.
Wow.
But
Jane brought a pie just for this. Just for this question.
Jane's not eating a pie. Oh man, okay. Yeah, it's actually probably the perfect time to do it. Actually, you know what? I'm actually better to read the quicker responses first because otherwise no one's going to hear them. Nick said he's rewatching Game of Thrones at the moment. Fantastic, by the way. Great choice to rewatch one of the greatest television programs of all time from beginning to end. You know what I mean? So that's a great choice. You can't go wrong with that. Have you guys ever been tempted to rewatch Game of Thrones recently?
When like my dad and my sister watched it last year.
For the first time?
Yeah, it was 2 years ago. It might have been 2 years ago, but yeah, when they were doing their rewatch, I was watching some of it too.
What did they think of the ending?
My dad didn't mind it. He was more critical of it than I thought it would be because I don't know. I just tend to think of him as like a consumer that just like watches and doesn't really like think of like good or bad. But okay. Like he loved the show, but he did have issues with the end, but he wasn't like super against it from what I remember.
Okay.
I don't know.
Got it. Okay. Sounds like some pretty good takes there. Sorry, I did that just to make Jen stop eating and have to turn on his mic and answer a question. I'm really sorry about that. Okay, Luke wrote in, right? I think. Now I'm trying to find it. Hang on, did Luke not answer the question? Oh no, I'm sorry, he did. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. Okay. Luke said, I watched Whiplash and Lego Batman. Yeah, I see him on Letterboxd now. I feel like it used to be exciting when he'd write in because I didn't know what he'd be watching. But now that he's so frequent on the Letterboxd, I sort of just see what he's watching all the time, you know? Unless he had a TV show here, which he doesn't. So, Luke, you got to hit me up in the Discord. Are you still watching Better Call Saul? How's that going? I feel like
yeah,
it might be bad news, but I don't know.
Mm.
But yeah, anyway, two great. I know he liked both of those films, so that's great. He should go back and re-listen to our Whiplash review. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm stalling because I'm just like trying to gather the mental stamina. Okay, here we go. Andy wrote in and said, I guess I can adjust my response and mention that I saw Miami Vice this week, directed by Michael Mann himself. The man himself. I'm sorry, that's great. I had 3 days left on my binge subscription, so I wanted to get this out of the way. Part of my excitement for this film is mainly because it's a lot of people's favourite cult hit from Mann, and also the greatest Chinese acting goddess Gong Li was in this as well. I wanted to actually love this, but Miami Vice is completely bonkers compared to other Michael Mann films I've seen so far. I won't lie. I'd rather put this out in the open as an audience response rather than wait and complain about it to Fitzy in person. So here's another adventure for you. It makes sense for me to do this since the host won't have to take part in this week's question, so the runtime shouldn't be affected. See, this is so bad. He's already he's created this mental justification for his long essays now. Oh my God. Mate, I still have to sit here and read them. Like, that's the main point. You know what I mean? Anyway. Wait, while I drink, Fitzy, have you read this comment yet, or am I going to surprise you?
Oh, no, I read it, yeah. It took me a while, but I read it.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure did. All right. My notes will definitely be spoiler-free, but they can also serve as a device for everyone coming into this film with low expectations. I'll start with the cast. The acting was very hard for me to immerse myself in, especially how wooden most of the dialogue was. Some moments were cringy and didn't feel as romantically believable as Heat, Manhunter, or even Public Enemies. There were 2 separate moments where people shower and make love. Like, what the hell? Sounds great. I did not buy Colin Farrell and Gong Li's chemistry at all, but but just a bit forced from Mann this time around. Chris Hemsworth's in it, and Tang Wei in Black. Oh, I'm sorry, Chris. I should stop fucking editorializing before I finish the sentence. Chris Hemsworth and Tang Wei in Black Hat felt more natural in comparison. Although I liked Gong Li's tears when she was romping Colin, that was a great display of emotional acting. Weird how Mann has casted famous mainland Chinese actresses as love interests in 2 of his 21st century films already. Colin Farrell's accent is so weird. He looks like a hard-boiled cop trying to sound like Batman. Eddie Marsan had a short role with a scene or two, and he just looked out of place here. Acting's not bad at all, despite little screen time, but he just looks like Chris Lilly playing Jonah from Tonga in terms of appearance and vibes. I blame it mostly on the casting. Kieran Hines plays an FBI agent. Okay, I actually am going to pause here and say, what is it with Kieran Hines popping up in literally everything now? He was in First Man. He was in...
Oh, yeah.
Was he in... Wait. Oh, I swear to God he was in like another film we did really recently or something. I don't know.
It probably was. He just does that.
Kieran Hines pops up, man. He pops up big time. There Will Be Blood, of course. No doubt. Yeah, he's all over the place. Game of Thrones. Oh, well, it's just because we talked about Game of Thrones right then. He plays an FBI agent, and he seems to only contribute to this film by placing his audition tape for Best Vincent Hanna Impersonation. Jamie Foxx seems to be the flawless element out of the entire cast, and him alongside Colin Farrell makes a memorable duo. Oh, that's good. How much of this is left? Okay. We're about halfway. The visuals are a blistering treat, though, especially its digital cinematography. I do prefer this over Public Enemies and Black Hat. Michael Mann's handheld shots had an intense agility to them, and it's just willing to capture everything from the subject to the action. I liked it when blood was briefly splattering on the lenses. Oh, that's cool. That was very Fallen Angels-esque. Liam or Luke will know what I mean. But I love when you scroll through at least the first 20 reviews on Letterboxd, they all be giving it 5 stars and provide such pretentious interpretations. Even my mutuals love this too. They'll talk about the storm, thunder, sea, ocean, and boats. Then they'll gush about why it's so impressionistic and deep to them. I guess I do admire how people can still see what Michael Mann paints here, but the overall execution is just inexcusably flat and laughable. From the acting to the romantic moments. Also, where does the $135 million budget actually come from? That's what I'd like to know. Visual aesthetics don't even seem to reflect it at all, and they still couldn't even composite a decent CGI explosion. It's apparently more expensive than Public Enemies and Ferrari, so that's nuts. All right, we're entering the final stretch here, everyone. I'm just taking another sip of water. I'm ready. I was also aware there was a television series for this, but I don't think many people, including Fitzy, have been bothered to check it out. Ultimately, it's a really cool film, but I just didn't consume the right drug for it. Not an ideal way to view this specific content. Fitzy can definitely try to persuade me at any time he wants, but for now, I'm sure he'll be stunned by my awful response. Miami Vice is recommended viewing, but as much as I love Michael Mann, I couldn't really find a whole lot more to be impressed about. Hopefully a rewatch can change that. That's what I recently watched. Thank you for listening to my TED Talk. Fitzy, I feel like you got to respond in some way, you know?
No, it's a pretty standard response to Miami Vice. I feel like,
okay,
it's a cult film for a reason. Most people feel this way about it.
Is the film actually meant to be like a remake of the TV show?
Well, they're the same characters. Like the two characters have the same name, I guess, but it's not like that similar.
I never thought that they would be linked. I don't know.
There's Don Johnson and Tubbs, whatever his name is. They're similar by name, but I don't think they're supposed to be. I don't think there's like similarities in like villains or whatever. No,
I sort of assumed, is it not just like a Mission Impossible situation, you know?
Oh,
it's
right.
like you take the name of a TV show and it's sort of, I guess, maybe similar in some way, but like not really.
Yeah. I guess I haven't seen the TV show, so I don't know. The TV show is just like very 80s, and Miami Vice is very like 2000s. I guess they're both. If you want to make an argument about it, I guess you could say it's as 2000s as, the show is 80s. But that's probably a bad argument. But yeah, I think the points you made are pretty consistent with the general consensus. It looks great, but some people don't get the chemistry for whatever reason. I don't know, just small brains, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. Disappointing.
Disappointing. Sure. That works for me. All right. As always, we'd love you to submit your responses, thoughts, and/or reviews for next week's film in the YouTube or Instagram comment section, or join the Discord server. This week, the specific question we'll be asking you is, who is your favorite puppet character? Let us know. Now, I do just want to throw it right now, because everyone's going to think I'm going to say Yoda. of course I'd say Yoda, but I'm not going to choose Yoda next week. I'm going to try and be better. You know what I mean? I feel like I've answered Yoda like 5 questions of the week already. So just getting that ahead of it now, you know. Okay, that's it for this week's episode of Cinema Effect. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Thanks Luke and Andy for maybe still listening to this point. All right, Liam, what are we doing next week?
We're doing Labyrinth. A rare fizzy victory. From the poll. It's been a while.
I feel like wasn't there once upon a time where you had like quite a streak?
It must be so long ago that I just don't remember it because in the last year I haven't been so hot on the win streaks. The Labyrinth film none of us has seen. I guess it's on a Stan Foxtel Netflix binge, and the reason for the question of the week is it's directed by Jim Henson, who did a bunch of. He's like the most famous like puppet person ever. Pretty much, he made like the Muppets, created the Muppets. He did this Dark Crystal. He helped create Sesame Street. So you know, if you wanna suggest Elmo or whatever, then go for it. Yeah,
absolutely. I can't close the show until I just say, Shannon, are you eating a pie and drinking a coffee at the same time right now?
What?
Are you drinking a coffee and eating a pie?
What's wrong with that? They go perfect.
I finished the pie already.
But like, were you drinking them at the same time?
Yeah.
Was the coffee? How do you have a hot beverage and hot food at the same time?
I don't know. Just do.
It's alien to me, man. It's unbelievable.
You know what do you mean? You just you pop down to the bakery and you get a pint of coffee. What do you mean?
No, that's whack. Oh my god, that's unbelievable. Like, how does your like entire throat system? I don't know the real word. Even do
Esophagus.
That? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's great.
I'm a man, what? As was acknowledged at the start of the episode by my voice sounding, gruffer. So like my throat can just take a bit more punishment.
I guess, or maybe it's the punishment you inflicted upon it, which causes the voice. I don't know. Anyway, maybe someone agrees with me. Let me know in the YouTube comments. All right. Have a great rest of your week and goodbye.